We're back with, what was that? Notice how you hear one person applauding, even if, or even someone dropping something, you think it's a hand clapping after you've been away for a few days from show business. Well, let's talk about less, in some sense, depressing things for you, because you did that so well. Where does your great agility come from physically? Do you come from a family of acrobats? What is it?
No, I come from a family of very wiry, thin people. My whole family, my father's, even now at 72, is very agile. Yeah. He's thin too, and my grandmother was thin. They're just that kind of a family.
Is your grandmother the one who does actually? I read somewhere she did a backflip or something at 84.
Oh, you got that from Carl Reiner. That's one of his favorite stories about my grandmother. At 86, I went to visit her in the hospital.
Yeah.
And she said, Dickie, I have some snapshots taken of you when you were a little boy. They're over here in the drawer, and she did a backflip over the bed to the other side of the bed.
At 84?
I couldn't believe it. 86.
86? How long did it take?
No, it was beautiful.
Just in one move?
One beautiful backflip right over the bed on the other side.
That's wonderful.
She thought nothing of it.
That sounds like Bob and Ray, doesn't it?
We're here talking to the flipping grandmother today, and
and your whole family is that way. So you have you practically have a dancer's muscles, probably. I mean, you can do all sorts of. Do you do yoga?
Yes, I do. This has just been in the last couple of years. I got started doing yoga.
Carol Burnett told me for an hour once about how much she's doing yoga and how much it's meant to her and why.
That's right. I understand she uses it before a show.
Yeah.
If I did it before a show, I wouldn't be able to do a show. I do it in the morning when I get up.
Because it's too relaxing? Is that why?
Yeah. Well, I wear myself out, but some of it's strenuous. Most of it's relaxing and stretching muscles. Mm-hmm. But yoga sit-ups are toughies.
How do they go?
Well, your legs have to come up, too. You know, you come up in a V like that.
Oh.
Your legs stay straight and they come up. And 25 of those, good night, Dick.
Is it this? You start like this, and then what?
Then everything comes up straight, yeah. Yeah, that's it.
You mean this?
Yeah, but you leave your hands on the floor. And it's that.
Oh! Like that?
Yeah, that's right. You get your forehead and your knee as close as you can. You really...
Yeah.
And it's a great exercise, but it's tiring.
I know. I just pulled something. That's good for you, though. I think. What else do you do? You did magic as a kid. That's one thing we have in common.
That's right, we do. I haven't done it since I was a kid. You still do it, don't you?
Well, I do a little. I did some. In fact, I did some on a show that was, I think has already been seen, depending on what point in time we are in right now. But do you do any, have you kept up with it? Do you still go to the magic shops?
Oh, I still go to magic shops and wander around.
That's fun.
I never had the real talent for it. I used to practice in front of the mirror with the cards. Yeah. Never could do it. Have you ever seen Milton Berle handle cards?
Yes, he's quite good.
He's amazingly good.
And if other people handle them, he'll snatch them away and handle them.
Yeah, that's right.
He's very good. I saw him do magic on the Old Texaco Theater, and he was wonderful.
Yeah, well, what do you do?
Well, I do rope, I do cards, I do most of the stuff. But I made a living in high school as a magician. I managed to put myself through a free high school, but no, I got some nights I got $35 from doing the Lions Club. I did 45 minutes of dazzling magic.
I did the Lions Club and the Kiwanis Ladies Night and all those, but I didn't get paid. Nobody ever paid me for it.
You were known as a dumb magician. Oh, yeah, you charge them. You send a bill in.
Was.
Well, that's good. What do you call that? You and I are both fascinated with Stan Laurel, and I think also with dialects, and we both, people don't know this, maybe about me anyway, but we both knew Stan Laurel.
Yes.
I think, is that called a bilateral sibilance that he had? It was some speech.
That's exactly what it is. I didn't realize what it was.
It's a speech defect that I know, as you know, his relative told him he could never go on the stage because he'd never be a success in show business because he had that bilateral sibilance, which sort of sounds like that.
Yes, very good.
I can imagine both of us doing him. It might be a bit hard to stand here.
Yes.
But it was a shock, wasn't it, when you first met Laurel, that he didn't sound like the Laurel of the screen exactly, but he'd say, very nice to see you, lad. It certainly was nice, and he had that sort of S sound. And he was...
That bilateral sibilance.
Bilateral sibilance,
I
guess that's what it... Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but he lived out that little part. You went to see him, didn't you, in Santa Monica?
I've seen you do him a couple of times, and it's just startling.
Oh, God, the first time I ever did him was after I had met him. And I did it with Henry Calvin. He used to be Captain Garcia on Zorro. The big fat guy. He did Ollie, and I did Stan. But Stan knew I was going to do it, and I begged him if he'd come down to the studio and give me a little help. No, he wouldn't go out in public, at all.
Yeah.
He wanted people to remember him as he was. But I called him after the show was on the air and said, how did I do? And he said, well, Dickie, he called me Dickie. He gave me 20 minutes of notes of things I had done wrong.
But you were directed by Stan Laurel.
After the fact, which was a big help. He didn't like that derby at all. Incidentally, he promised me his derby, and nobody's been able to find it to this
really?
day. I never got it. But
I bet somebody snatched it.
and he didn't wear heels. He took the heels off his shoes to give him that kind of funny stance that he had, and I hadn't done that. He used paper clips as cufflinks, and I hadn't done that.
Yeah.
I forget all the things, but 20 minutes of notes, but he ended up by saying you were good. He was marvelous.
I know he liked you very much. He talked to me about you.
I
I
used to bug him enough.
Yeah. People had the bad taste to come over and sometimes and talk as him the whole time they were there. Just. He said one time he almost never swore, but he did at this point. He wouldn't. I don't think his wife would mind my telling this. I said, "Do you like people imitating you?" And he said, "Well, it's all right sometimes, but the other day this fella came in and he talked like me the entire time, and it was so damn embarrassing. I was bastard. I didn't know where to look." And his voice went up like it did in the movie, and I got goose pimples all over.
Do you know he hated that cry? He didn't like to do the cry.
Where'd it come from?
He did it just in a rehearsal or on a stage one time, and the director liked it and made him do it. And he absolutely hated it. He didn't think the cry was funny.
That is
but
strange.
He did it. It made a hit with the public, of course, and he always did it after that. But he said, I never could understand why that was funny.
I exaggerated just then a little bit, the squeakiness of it, but on the screen he really went way up. Can you
No, I couldn't
level
get it.
of
No,
it way?
He did. Never can. That's perfect. I can't get it.
I asked him if he ever got hurt in any of those films that they did, because they did all that stuff that looked falling out of chimneys and down roller coasters and things like that. And he said the only time he ever got hurt was once he stepped off the curb between takes on a street set while talking to somebody.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I don't know what.
And what, put his back out or something?
Yeah, just wrenched his back. Like an athlete will get hurt in the lawn playing with his dogs.
I used to go out also and visit Buster Keaton, who lived fairly near. I wangled an introduction to him.
Yes.
He was 68 at the time and still could do everything he did when he was a young man. I'd always been fascinated with the trick he used to do, putting one foot up on the table and then the other foot, and then he would just stay poised in the air, and then he'd drop.
It looked like a cartoon. You would think it couldn't happen in real life. I saw him do that on the Gary Moore show once live. And I don't know if people realize what you just described, but he literally put one leg up on something about as high as a card table.
Yeah.
Now one leg's down, and he lifted the other leg up. There was an instant, and then onto his back, onto the floor.
Well, he did it in his kitchen on the counter for me, and you know how high they are.
Yeah.
At 68 years old, I would have killed myself.
He and your grandmother would have flipped over each other.
What a pair.
After this message, we'll be back with more. Stay with us.